Every single month, we get to choose a different topic here on Nesha Medical Practice's YouTube channel. It's called Nesha Talks, where we get to unpack very serious issues. And today is another serious issue, which will be unpacked by Dr. Nelson Makemba himself. Hi, and welcome to the show, Doc.
Hi, it's always a great pleasure being here. Thank you for having me on the show again.
Lovely, lovely, Doc. We love the feedback from, the public, the viewers as well. Please unpack today's topic and why is it very, very important for this month of May?
Yeah, we are going to talk about mental-related problems today. Because also in the month of May, this is where we, commemorate, awareness surrounding mental-related problems. So today is actually, a significant day in that we are going to be able to talk about some of these things.
Yeah. All right. And when we say mental health, let's unpack. What does that mean when we say mental health or mental issues or problems?
Yeah. Now, it's very interesting that in our setting, particularly in Africa, people still have a lot of belief systems, a lot of superstitious belief systems. Mental-related problems are often stigmatized. People always looked at when they got a mental problem as either bewitched, cursed, or maybe God is angry at them. They did something secretly that nobody knows about. Now God is becoming even with them. So these are stereotypes that have developed over the years, oftentimes really because perhaps people lacked the understanding of what people with mental-related problems do go through. And oftentimes, especially when it's gross florid kind of presentation, times people might have erratic behavior that are bizarre, and people didn't always understand and know how to deal with these kind of presentations. So people then just tend to sort of stigmatize, and people are sort of blocked and put in that one pot, and are referred to as this is the mad one, and it's mal,
or looking for attention.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But mental related issues or problems are real, and oftentimes people that suffer from mental problems, they are not to blame. It just an imbalance in some of the chemicals in the body, the neurotransmitters. It's a physiological dysfunction, and oftentimes when managed properly and the individual take their medication, they tend to get those imbalances back in check again, and they can be functional again. So one of the message that I really want to send across to those that are engaging us is, do not stereotype and stigmatize people with mental related problems. In fact, we must become advocate for positive change. We must actually create safe environment for these people, because they also become very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, if not cared for properly, they can actually be taken advantage of. Yeah.
And a lot of suicidal rates
definitely.
we've been observing as well.
Yeah, definitely, especially when people go into those major depressive episodes, and they start thinking life is not worth living, we can actually end up losing lives of people that we could have saved, and these people could have led a meaningful life in society if only they knocked on the right door at the right time and the right help was offered to them.
So when we say mental health issues, we also closely use the word depression. And when we say depression, how do we know, Doc, that I am depressed? So apart from, someone seeking that, medical consultation, what are some of those signs, those telltale signs to say that this is more than just a phase? This is probably a state of depression.
If first and foremost, the symptoms persist beyond 7 days, it's probably characterized by something that is significant. And especially with areas of depression, start off with people isolating themselves from everybody else, not wanting to engage the outside world, not finding, activities that they would, under normal circumstances, enjoy fun. In other words, the things that were pleasurable to an individual are no longer pleasurable. Maybe if they loved going out, swimming, they no longer find swimming fun. If they like to go out and watch a movie here and there, they no longer find, going to theater, to the cinemas fun. Or if they just, like chilling with friends, in a park or somewhere where they sit down and have a discussion or a break, they no longer find that fun. And they might also start feeling depressed, thinking life is not worth living, They are tearful all the time, Their countenance is down. You can actually literally see this person is having that, depressed appearance, even if you try to joke, and make, try to get them to just, laugh a little bit. Yeah, they might be laughing, but you can see that sort of flat effect, to say this laughter, there's something that is just not right with this person. And obviously, when this kind of symptoms persist, then, suicidal ideation kicks in, that if not treated properly, people might then either attempt or even succeed in committing suicide. And this is actually, some of, the challenges surrounding mental health related problems is when the kind of presentation is associated with suicidal ideations. We want to make sure that we help this person before they attempt.
Yeah.
Because if they go on and attempt and they succeed, it means that their life is lost that could have been saved. Yeah, so some of those are the clinical presentation. And you might have the bipolar phase also, where an individual go from a depressed state to an extremely elated or happy phase, But then also when they are manic or they are extremely happy, they are not necessarily, able to control how they feel. So it's sort of their minds are racing within themselves, So everything is exaggerated. So that also presents problem, is not compared to the normal state of joy where you're just in a good space, That, manic phase might then, be associated with things like overspending, for instance. The person is so excited, they go in the mall, they swipe,
even if they can't afford it.
Yeah, they swipe their saving or they use a credit card. And then tomorrow when the emotion sort of comes down again, they've gotten themselves into all kinds of challenges. Yeah, so those are some of the things that, can happen with mental related problem, anxiety also, where the person is seemingly anxious all the time. Then little other things like claustrophobic. Some people, they can actually, be in a very close environment for a very extended period of time. That also has its own challenges, but when understood properly and managed promptly, this individual tend to do very well.
Yeah. So when understood, meaning when diagnosed, would doctor recommend those to be put on medication? Because there are always two ways, either, the verbal way of going through this or medication. And I've heard that if you also want to get off of the medicines, you just don't immediately stop. Yeah. It's very difficult.
What we tend to do, and this now comes in at the clinician's discretion. What I mean by that, me as a medical doctor sitting here, if I'm evaluating somebody that seemingly has a mental challenge, I now need to gauge into the severity of the kind of presentation I'm seeing before me. Is this the type that I would want to put on medication, and what medication do I put that person on? Or if it's just a brief episode, maybe they've lost their loved ones or something happened that, they are just in a bit of a tight spot. Is it the kind where I would want to sit down with my patient and sort of just engage, the conversation that sort of also help with what we call emotional intelligence, there's a saying in the medical, mental related health problems. Sometimes you just have to help the person to see the other side of the coin. And maybe what they are looking for is on the other side. And once you have a conversation and, the penny drops, they might start to process what's happening differently. So when it's not so bad that it need medications, we can talk to the person. We might even offer to send them to a psychologist where they can just sort of have those, counseling sessions where they can just go and vent and talk about things, and the psychologist then comes in with that sort of, emotional intelligent aspect where they're helping this person see the other side of the coin. And oftentimes when done properly in an environment that is non-judgmental and where the person feels valued, appreciated, and where they are feeling their head, that they are not just, categorized as being crazy, the people tend to do very well. And like I said, the natural tendency, particularly in our African setting over the years, has been stigmatizing. That's why I find a lot of people with mental problems, they keep it to themselves. And by the time we discover the person was actually struggling with a mental related problem is when they have taken their life. And then all of a sudden, you hear one or two people that knew them. Yeah, she or he was actually depressed. But the question is, if you knew, why didn't you then provide that safe space, that nurturing environment that could help the person? Yeah, but we with talks like this and engaging the public, we are hoping to drive the message across to say, look, if somebody has a mental related problem, we shouldn't stigmatize, we shouldn't judge, but we should rather be safe space for this individual so that they're able to flourish, they're able to see things differently, and they'll be able to better battle their health, related challenges.
So if someone has been diagnosed with depression, Doc, is it, possible for them to journey on and not be depressed anymore? Or is it, if you're depressed for the rest of your life and you should just manage it properly?
It can be chronic depending on, the cause of depression. Okay. It might be a brief episode. If it's just something that they are going through and within a week or two, the space is different again. Obviously, there's also that element of recurrence that can happen, particularly if an incident of a similar nature that tipped the individual off back then recur. Maybe I was in a space, something happened that I became depressed. And then I come out of that space and I'm doing very well for a period of time. Then I find myself in a space that reminds me of that incident that I had gone through. That space might then again tip me over. But by far, most of the people that go through depression, they come out of it and they are able to live productive life and never get to be depressed again. So it's not everybody that is handed down the diagnosis of any mental disorder or depression. It doesn't mean you are depressed for the rest of your life. And also, not everybody depressed need to be on medication. Sometimes you might need to take a medication for a month, 2, 3, at most 6, and then if you start to feel much better, like we have said earlier, you can go back to your doctor. Your doctor will then start to taper down the medication, and eventually, completely get you off the medication. So there's an element, of the condition being manageable. And if the symptoms really are not there, I don't see any reason to keep somebody on the medication, because also if you keep the person on the medication when they're able to do well by themselves, you are just creating dependency. Because then the person, will register that I'm only feeling better because I'm taking the medication. So they become dependent on the drug. And then when you take it off, because their mind is already, programmed to think that way, then they will start feeling all kind of things that might not necessarily be the case biologically, just because you have created that dependency. So there's a thin line there. And it's always at the doctor's discretion to say, okay, I think you're in a better space now. Maybe to first, reduce the dosage, for instance. If you're getting this much, we can make it lighter. And then we can go for another month and then reduce it again until we eventually take you off the medication or the said individual off the medication. And I've seen it in clinical practice where people go off the medication completely and they lead productive life and they are doing very well. You run into them, they're excited about life, they are energetic, they are positive, their outlook on life has changed, and life is good again.
Success story.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
great. And as we conclude, Doc, especially for family support or those friends or any family members that are living with someone that has been diagnosed with depression, how can family support in what practical ways?
Yes, the first thing I would want to say, when a friend, a family member, a loved one has been handed down the diagnosis of depression, and let's say it has now become common knowledge in the house that this individual in the family is depressed. As a family, you should become that safe space, as I've highlighted to earlier. This is not the time to go and broadcast your loved one depressive state to everybody else. Address them at home. And if there's a reason at home why the person is depressed, the family need to readjust, to be considerate and loving enough to say, look, we have to readjust so that, the individual feel valued. Maybe the person feel like they are pushed to the back of the queue in the family. Everybody else is, looked up as, significant, and they feel they are insignificant for whatever reason, depending on how that family structure and dynamic set up is. So the family will then have to readjust to accommodate this individual, to make them feel that they matter too, So that support is very much important and is very much needed. If it's between spouses, one need to support the other spouse and make sure that they walk their journey together, even going for couple therapy if it's needed, because at times also with spousal interaction, you find two people come from different backgrounds. So now it's two people from different background, different household, different trying to make life, and build their own family together. So those dynamics, they do play out a lot, and oftentimes it's just a matter of understanding. And oftentimes when the understanding is not able to come forth between the two individuals, get a third party involved that has nothing to gain, no way to side with either or, and then help you guys see and realize what's happening. And this is the importance of couple therapy. This is what psychologists do. They will be able to look at the scenario, look at it, study it, and then explain it better to those that are involved. So family, loved ones, we should become the safe space for the individuals that are close to us that are battling with depression, and we must be the supporting hand. We must always be there, and they must also feel comfortable and safe enough to confide in us, to say, hey, I've been feeling this way over the last couple of days, or you as my husband, my boyfriend, as my brother, you the way you said what you said yesterday made me feel some type of way. And then one is able to resolve that. Or how you conduct yourself makes me feel some type. And sometimes also poor parenting skills. You might find a parent might be siding with one child because maybe the child is bright and he does good at school.
Yeah.
And now this one is used as an example in contrasting to the others. The others are told, why is your brother or your sister always passing, getting A's, and you are getting C's? But the individual that is getting C's might be good at something else. And we also know that things play out different in the corporate and in real life. You had the saying, A students work for the government, B students work for the C students, and the C students often become, entrepreneurs and founders.
Yeah.
But now parents generally think the report card, is a sign and a telltale sign of where the child will end up in life. So the dynamics of parenting also is very
sensitivity
important.
a lot.
So we need to be very sensitive and address individuals, in their individual capacity, based on what they love, what they're able to excel at, so that everybody feels significant.
Yeah. Doc, I think we did justice in such a short period of time. And, hopefully in the next couple of months, we can also shed more light, especially during the month of May. We appreciate you also having the conversations. Thank you so much, Doc.
It's always a pleasure talking to you and everybody else that engages on all social media platforms. And we look forward to more talks and conversations on this nature.
So there you heard it from Dr. Nelson Makemba. It's always about highlighting those conversations and having a safe space to have those discussions. Meet us again. That's next month. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Bye-bye.